What is up, guys? Me again, time for another Around the World in 80 Days. Chapter 16, The Daring Attack. The Daring Attack, yeah. By the time Phileas Fogg, Passepartout, and Fix leaped aboard, the train was already moving away. The locomotive was bleached black smoke. As the engineer planted more fuel into the boulder and gained speed, a band of American Indian warriors on ponies were galloping alongside the train as the locomotive struggled to get up to speed. They were shooting wildly into the air with their guns. Many of the passengers who had been carrying guns are now firing at the windows. Phileas Fogg, Passepartout, and Fix, and even Aurora joined them. Phileas Fogg was glad that Passepartout had brought the 4 guns from San Francisco. The train chase tossed them out of the locomotive and fuel tender, followed by the bagger car. Immediately behind the bagger car was the car carrying Phileas Fogg and his friends. The Indians target was the bagger car. Looking out at the window, Phileas Fogg saw 4 Indians leap off their ponies and into the locomotive car. He knew that there was a direct route from bagger car into the fuel tender and the locomotive. He decided to go to help the engineer and stoker. Come on! He shouted, opening the door between his car and the bagger car. Follow me! Passepartout and Fix followed him. At exactly the same moment, 3 of the 4 Indians who had boarded the locomotive entered the bagger car at the other end. And the battle began. Phileas Fogg, Passepartout, and Fix advanced, dodging in out of the cracks and creeks in the car, flirting as they went. One of the Indians was wounded and jumped out of the train. Suddenly, Fix was hit by a bullet and fell over. Passepartout fired again and hit another Indian. Passepartout realized it was too dangerous to remain in the bagger car. The Indians had the same idea. Both sides retreated, taking their wounded with them safely back to their own car. Passepartout slammed the door shut and barricaded with some luggage. Luckily, Fix had only been grazed by the Indian shot. Aurora attended his wound. By now, the train was reaching along at aeromatic speed, and many of the other attacking Indians were being left behind. Well, gentlemen, said Phileas Fogg, the Indians have control of the locomotive. What are we going to do now? Excuse me. It was Passepartout who came up with the idea to unlock the locomotive and bagger car from the rest of the train. If we do that, he said, the Indians into the bagger car will take off all along a ride and leaving us safely behind. There is no way if we can stop at the locomotive. They won't know how to do. Brilliant, said Phileas Fogg, and said, but how are we going to uncuff the locomotive in the bagger car? Passepartout came to the rescue again. As well as the elephant ride and sharpshooter in the circus, he explained proudly, I was also an arrowback. Passepartout thought that was a bit of luck. He couldn't get down between their car and the bagger car and unlock them. It's too dangerous, said Mr. Fogg. You'll kill yourself. But Passepartout insists. He opened the door and leaped into the bagger car, and swift the door opened. He held on a grim life as the train raced on, swinging wildly from the side to side. There were still few Indians riding along side of the train in top speed. They had all fired their guns, but none were throwing spears and tomahawks at the train. So Passapartout was under attack as the hang upside down was struggling with a heavy iron linking to the car. Mr. Fogg ordered him back, but he refused. Passapartout had already undone all one of the links. The last one was the main company arm. It was struck fast and he couldn't move it. So he climbed across the other side of the cabin and his feet were not on the bagger car. So said the company. The train went over and behind the line and gave a huge jolt. All the once and the company jerked up and freed itself. The locomotive and the bagger car freed from each other and raced alone. Phileas Fogg was about to let out a tear when he realized the terrible solution. Passepartout had left himself in it. He was still clinging to the bagger car, moving further and further away from his friends. Passepartout had no choice. He disappeared into the distance with a runaway locomotive in the bagger car. The other cars did exactly as Passepartout had planned. They slowly come to a halt. The passengers found themselves just a few yards from the station of Fort Kennedy. Several had been warned of the attack, but none faithfully. Aurora was safe, and Passepartout, despite being in the truck and of it, had no received a stitch. He got out of the train and looked down at the tracks to see the last Indian still chasing the locomotive and the bagger car. As I will not leave here, cried Professor Fogg, until I have found Passepartout, alive or dead. Aurora said, "You are a good man," answered Aurora, with tears in her eyes. She knew that it would mean the end of his challenge. If he stays behind in search for Passepartout, he'll never reach New York in time for the catch of the steamer. Fort Kennedy was home to the small U.S. 70 unit. It stood on high ground nearly a mile away. The lookout must have seen the Indians on the runaway train, because the party of 30 cavalry riders arrived soon after. The combination officer introduced himself to Captain Roger. Good to see you, Captain," said Mr. Fogg. "We've lost our man, and he's probably a prisoner of the Indians now. If his life is under risk, and we must pursue him." Captain Rogers quickly agreed and gave a chase, and asked Phileas Fogg to come with him. They had spent hours. Fix injured. He was stepped forward and volunteered to go too. "I'd rather you stay with Aurora and keep her safe," said Phileas Fogg. The detective was very uneasy, as the last thing he wanted was to see his man ride into the snow and vanish forever. But he could not argue with Mr. Fogg's request, so Fix and Aurora anxiously watched him go. And that's all for today. See ya!